So, my friends, let's not delude ourselves. The situation on the ground is bad. But if you look at this budget, you will think that there is nothing serious with the economy. Despite the fact that the PAP had been building it up for weeks, telling people that they were going to give strong support to keep the economy afloat. But it is pitifully little for the situation that we encounter. It is a tepid response, very much in line with how they have dealt with this crisis so far. Not decisive, and I'm afraid to say this. I think this budget, with its pathetic support for our local businesses, is going to cause great damage to our economy down the road because of the crisis. They allotted $4 billion for the stabilization and support scheme. $4 billion. Let me give you a comparison. In 2009, when the financial crisis hit, or what I call the Lehman crisis hit, the government pumped in $13.7 billion, which was the equivalent of 4.6% of the GDP then. The $4 billion that they are pumping in today to support the struggling economy in the midst of this crisis does not even amount to 0.8% of the GDP. Are they suggesting that this crisis is so much lesser than what we experienced in 2009? If they think so, I think they are very, very wrong. I think this crisis, and from the way they are handling it, is going to be with us for a long time. And look at the measures. Look at the measures that they implement, which they say has been done to help businesses. Totally inadequate. So they are going to give an 8% offset for wages to businesses for 3 months. But you know, this amount is not going to be paid until the end of July. Now, many businesses are not going to be able to survive so long without the necessary emergency help. Let's look at rentals. You know, the taxi drivers are suffering greatly. And what do? They give a 20% rebate on the rental when income has dropped by 50 to 60%. A common example with the taxis is this. Rental is about $126. If you add in the fuel cost, it comes up to about $150. Now, a driver in the past, in normal times, could earn maybe between $200 to $220. So he's able to take home between $60 to $70 a day. Now, that driver's income today has dropped. It has dropped by 50 to 60%. You tell me, is that $20 going to be of any help to him? And mind you, most of our taxi companies in Singapore are all government linked. I would expect the government to have suggested to the taxi companies and even made them reduce rental by at least 50%, if not waive rental for at least 3 months. That is the way you help people in difficult times. Not just a lot of empty talk and rhetoric, but nothing substantial at the end of the day to show. let's come now to other items of rental. You know, a week ago, I read that in Hong Kong, the largest landlord of the malls there, Sun Hung Kai, they are going to reduce rental for most of their tenants by up to 50% to ensure, as they say, the stability of the economy and the protection of jobs. In Singapore, we need to do the same. But with the exception of Jewel, which has agreed to a 50% reduction in rent for the F&B outlets, no other landlords have moved. And in this budget, what is the government offering? It offers a 15% property tax rebate. And it encourages landlords to pass down that rebate to the tenants by reducing rental. That is pathetic and manifestly inadequate. One restaurant owner told me, you know what is 15% rebate even if I get it in full from the landlord? It is the equivalent of 5 days rental. 5 days rental when my revenue has dropped by 50% or more. And in Singapore, we know we have big landlords associated with the company, with the government. They really should be taking the lead. They should be taking the lead to reduce rent and to make all the other private landlords follow suit. And if people's voice is in government today, I give you the assurance that would be done. Because rental is the biggest component of any business cost in Singapore. Come next to GST. Heng Swee Keat says he's not going to increase GST in 2021. Of course he can't, because of the economic situation and because this is election season. He knows it's going to be suicidal for the PAP if he does that. But you know what People's Voice would have done? In the first place, People's Voice never agreed with that hike from 7 to 9% of GST. And in this economic crisis, we would have reduced GST from 7% to 5%. And on top of that, we would have exempted daily necessities like food, medicine from GST totally. And that would be very much in line with what other advanced nations such as Britain do. In all of this, my friends, it is important that we do not allow our self-employed, our small, medium enterprises to fail. Small businesses, medium enterprises make up 99% of all private enterprises in Singapore. They employ up to 70% of our people. How can we let them fail? And when I talk about small businesses, I also want to particularly mention micro businesses, those businesses that employ 0 to 9 employees. They are the future of our country. They are going to be our growth centers for innovation and creativity. The problem with our economy at the moment is that there is too much government involvement in our economy and not enough space for the private enterprises. We must reverse that. But we must ensure for the moment that none of these self-employed small businesses fail, because if they do, the livelihoods of many other Singaporeans are affected. And I know today, many of you will be praying for the success of your company and of your leaders. And I join you in those prayers. Small businesses will always have a big part in people's voices thinking about how our economy should be shaped. I have been in working life now for 30 years. For the greater part of that time, I have been a lawyer. But I have also been a businessman, managing my own company for close to 10 years. And I know in tough times how hard it is for that business owner to find the money to pay rental and salaries at the end of the month. I know how difficult it is. But we have leaders who have never run a business in their life, never had to worry about how their staff were going to be paid, who were always fed from that iron rice bowl. But for the majority of us, we do not have that luxury. And at a time like this, you need government to be the prime combatant against this economic crisis, because only government can do it. And we have the means to do it, my fellow Singaporeans. We have one of the largest reserves known. According to some sources, around $1 trillion. And that is people's money. That is people's money. And we were always told that we needed reserves to prepare for the rainy day. If this point in time is not a rainy day, I do not know what is. It is not only a rainy day. It is a thunderstorm going. A raging thunderstorm. And there's no end, there's no sight to the end of the rain. It is a time when we should be using our reserves to ensure that no deserving Singaporean goes under. And that is not an act of charity by government. That is a social duty of government. If people's voice was in government today, we would set up an emergency fund that all self-employed and all small businesses would be able to tap into, because these are the most affected people. And when you help your people to survive, these loans will be repaid gratefully, and everyone can prosper and thrive. So, my fellow Singaporeans, there is a lot more the government should be doing and has not done. Instead, it has embarked on a gimmicky budget, giving out a lot of goodies everywhere because elections are around the corner. But it is not solving the most immediate problem, which is this devastating crisis which has befallen our economy and many of our businesses. I will have the opportunity in the coming days to address you on other important aspects of the budget. But I thank you for your attention today, And I hope that we can start a discussion together, and we can start a discussion going as to how government should render more help to our suffering business people and workers at this point in time. Thank you.